Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. We're going to be talking about something very interesting. We're going to be talking about voice. And when you hear that, you're wondering what that's all about, but we're going to get into it. We've brought one of the leading managed service providers in the voice space on the show today. His name, of course, is Mr. Ray Pasquale. Ray's been on the show, but whenever we want to reach out to an expert and talk about things that are happening in their particular space, especially as to how AI is starting to change things in a particular space, Ray's one of the guys we reach out to. He's done such a great job. He has a great team over at Unified. I mean, it looks like a who's who of this industry. So Ray, welcome to the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Andy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I love it. You know, we're talking about voice. People are wondering, voice, I mean, what are we going to be talking about today? So I kind of gave them a little foreshadowing. Before we get started, pull the lens back for the viewers to 30,000 feet. Tell us about Unified Office, and then we're going to go.
So we're not just a voice over IP company. I tell people we're a communications technology company. Voice, we actually have voice systems, obviously. We have sensors that have important information to communicate. And by the way, we work with robotics as well. And robots, they have important information. I know, what's a voice company doing with a robot? That's an interesting discussion. But what we try to do is, one of our taglines going forward today is voice is the future. We know all about Andy and Ray with our fingertips, right? They know our driving habits, where we go. Our iPhones track us all over the planet. But the last thing, the most important form of communications is voice. Yet people kick it to the curb, treat it like it's a commodity, like you shouldn't pay a lot for it, and it can't change your life. And I'm here to tell you that it will change your life. And we've done it for hundreds, thousands of customers across the country. And, so that's the sort of genesis of the company, is to always find ways to unearth the value in voice communications so that it helps our customers do really important things.
I love it. Let's talk about it. What types of customers are reaching out to you and they're saying, hey, this voice, we need it. I mean, when I think about it and I think about the way the world's moving, Ray, I say to myself, voice has become a lost art, especially in the sales sort of arena. And we need to bring it back because we need to talk to people. We need to communicate with people. We need them to hear our voice. We need them to see us, feel us, touch us, instead of just through our fingertips. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you make an incredible point. In fact, this week, we were out in Las Vegas at a major company's international rally they hold once a year. And, this is a quick serve restaurant, a large company, Fortune 500 company. What do you think their biggest thing is? Reconnecting with their customer. They spent a lot of effort trying to hire people. The minimum wage jumps up. And so what happens when that happens? If they can't pass that along, they shed people and they replace it with call centers in different countries that don't know your brand and don't represent your brand. Or they force you to an app. And so when you do that, you might as well become a ghost kitchen, right? You've lost that connection, and they know that, and they know that it's hurting sales. So we've created a very unique product for them that they can use their own employees. If you have to have a call center, why not have it with your own employees that really represent your brand? They're your best brand ambassadors. They want to reconnect. They know they've lost that connection with their customer. And it's a movement. It's a real thing. People are realizing that technology is great, right? But when it disintermediates you from your customer, they don't know you anymore, Andy. They'll say, who's Andy? All I know is this app that's, and the more interesting thing is when people are forced to use the app. A friend of mine told me recently that he ordered a pizza from a local chain customer of ours, and it turned out to be a $43 10-inch pizza by the time it came to his house. So what do you think he does? He sets up a default pizza. So whenever he wants it, he just pushes a button and he gets the default pizza. But what you lose there is the opportunity to tell him about new products, right? Why your product is so good. He's not looking at it, and he just pushes a button and the pizza comes, and that's it. So, we focus on market verticals, automobile dealerships, dentists. They're all trying to rediscover their customer and get that connectivity.
Yeah, I love it, Ray. It's very interesting because I look at you as a real pioneer because when we talk about voice, we start thinking about what companies are losing by not using it, and they lose a connection. And everybody's talking about connecting right now, especially for brand building, especially for SaaS companies, restaurants. I mean, you name it, you go up and down all of the specific industries that you touch. Everybody wants to have something that allows them the opportunity to have that magnificent touch point with their customer or potential customer. And you're now also bringing AI into the monetization of the voice as well. Let's talk about that because that's a unique way in which you're sort of leading the charge.
AI, as you know, is a mania today, right? AI is the new hammer. Everything else is a nail. We've been looking at AI stuff for several years. And when I say AI, I'm not saying chat GPT or generative AI. I'm saying that our intelligence, how we build software products, we put a lot of intelligence into what we do. Embracing AI today, for example, in some of our first products that we announced like 4 or 5 years ago was something we called sentiment analysis, which probably was the wrong way for me to identify that product because now it's a family of products. And what sentiment analysis sought out to do early on was, look, you've got, let's see, one of our large operators has 150 stores in 6 states. Every store has an average of 50 part-time employees and some full-time. He's got about 30, 40,000 recorded calls every week. To go through each one of those calls manually to discover something, whether it's a transaction went wrong or a complaint from a customer or whatever, you got no hope of doing that. So by applying software to do that, like using our sentiment analysis detection product, we're able to go through every single call. They can log into the portal, they can select what they're looking for, anger, happiness, maybe a set of keywords, and you press go. And pretty darn close to real time, we're going to come back with a subset of what we think you're looking for. And, out of 30 or 40,000, we still might come back with 10,000, but you're able to continue to refine to get what you want. So it's fully automated. Now you fast forward to what are we doing today? What we announced recently was the ability to do AI whisper coaching. Whisper coaching is an old telephony feature. It's been around for 100 years. It's the ability for me, as Andy's talking to your customer, to break in and say, Andy, make sure you mention the chicken fries today, or whatever, right? But you can't, an automobile dealership's got a general manager with 100 salespeople. He or she can't be listening to every call and helping to coach that relationship. But by using our sentiment detection algorithms, we're able to insert messaging to the salesperson to remind them of what's important, or to be able to say, seems like you're escalating with your voice or whatever. So I'm going to get too wonky here and I don't want to, but I kind of have to. These things called large language models. This is incredible. This is a language model that, we've always been if you got a Gmail account, you've been a product of Google's now for maybe 15 to 20 years. They data mine everything you type. If you use their voice, they're going to listen to your voice. So all these words get cataloged. And it's this large predictive model. Focusing on smaller market verticals is what we do. And so our language models tend to be highly supervised, so you don't get what they call hallucinations. Recent example of that was a company in the UK, I think it was. They outsourced their customer service to an AI agent, which came back and told them, you don't want to do business with Andy Jacob. This is a terrible company, right? And then there's this concept called grounding, that you need a human to oversee the output of these large language. You might as well not use it at all. So we do some really different analysis here. One of the fellows that works for us came from Amazon, wanted to get out of the big company and work for us because we do really cool things and he wanted to be part of it. And he did a lot of work on Alexa and that sort of thing. And we're doing some very cool things in our with AI that it's not superfluous. It's everything we do has to have a purpose that helps Andy Jacob run his business better, put a smile on your face, make your customer relationship stronger, and help you become more profitable, drive your revenue high. We've got commercials of people, our own customers, telling us what we've done for them. One pizza shop operator, it's got a half a dozen stores around the country. We drove his revenues, and he's not ashamed to tell anybody, well north of 35% the first week he put us in. It's crazy. You would never think of a phone system to do that, right? And we talk about phones not being valuable because the whole industry has coalesced around the idea that we're going to drive prices down, give you 4 phones for the price of one, and you as a consumer believe it's not valuable. Of course it's valuable. You don't email your fire department when your house is on fire. You escalate to a voice call. So voice is important. It is a market hurdle for us. I'm not going to lie. But it's the opportunity as well. And people are beginning to see the difference that we're making in their lives. And I think it's an incredible company that we're building, not just because I'm the founder and CEO, but you talk to our customers. They will tell you stories that you never would have heard before.
Wow. It's fantastic, Ray. You said you don't want to get wonky, but from watching the show, I like to get wonky. I like to get into it. I like sort of taking that trail. So I want to take you into the trail a little bit and maybe get a little bit more into the weeds, because you said something that's just incredible. You were using the example of let's just say an auto dealership, and they have a salesperson on the phone, and you're able to use large language models, some type of predictive analysis, something that you maybe call or used to call sentiment analysis, to serve up messages to the salesperson on the phone. How does that work? Does it come through his headset? Does it come up on the screen? You're talking loud, you're elevating.
Whether you're using Bluetooth or whatever, it's going to come in and you'll hear it, right? And so this is early days for us. And to build language models and then to do the training is a lot of work. And it's very expensive. And a lot of people will use Amazon Web Services to do the number crunching, but that is so incredibly expensive that if I had to pass that cost along to my customers, they wouldn't be able to afford it. We have our own network of cloud servers all around the country. We have plenty of MIPS available or compute cycles available to do lots of work. So it allows us to do that kind of analysis using our own server farms at really attractive prices where we can pass that. I hate to use the word savings, because really what I'm offering you is a premium service that's going to help you drive productivity, right? And that gives us the opportunity to do real-time work. To do real-time work using AWS and others, forget about it. The price would be so prohibitive. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you have to do to make this stuff work, to make it valuable to the customer, to help that customer sales relationship. And don't forget, it takes one call to go bad today with social networks to get a 1-star Google review to really hurt your reputation. Yeah. You don't need 20, you just need that one.
You're right, Ray.
Analysis in real time is so important because it allows the operators and the managers to get in right away before that happens, so they don't get yelped and whatnot. So that's the world we live in, right? I didn't create it that way, but it is what it is. My job is to help you navigate that world and adapt to it and prosper.
Yeah, I love it, Ray. Let's talk about the process. Somebody reaches out to you, they've heard what you're doing. How does the conversation go? Is it from your end asking them a lot of who, what, where, when, why, and how questions so you can understand their sales cycle, so then you can figure out how to insert one of your sort of managed service opportunities into their particular business? I know it's not a one-size-fit-all opportunity that you offer. How do you get through to the point that you know what to give your clients?
Well, that's why we're vertically focused, so that we understand a lot about their particular business. In fact, you'll get to a point, Andy, where you'll know more about their business than they do, actually. So now you can take them forward. Because, what did Henry Ford say? If I asked my customers what they wanted, they say a faster horse, right?
Yeah.
And so when we engage with a customer, we take them through a relatively short interview process. And the idea is to, ask them lots of questions so we can divine what they want initially. Now, that's the 80-20 rule, I call it. A new customer that gets onboarded, that went through that interview, 80% of what they want is available from day one. Then as they begin to use the platform, and we're always training and educating our customers as to our new products and whatnot, they'll call back and say, gee, can you do this for me? Can you add this feature? And we'll do that. We're very agile. We don't have, a big roadmap that'll say we can't do that for 2 years. We're not a custom shop either. We deploy large volumes of customers. And the idea being, look, if you're the first customer in a vertical for us, Andy, after that interview, I've determined that you're pretty good at what you do, and everybody else that's doing what you do is probably going to benefit from the same 80% feature set that you wanted us to implement for you. And so that's how we scale it out.
Very interesting. Yeah, I like that very much. We mentioned the restaurant, we mentioned the auto dealership. Name some other verticals that you sort of specialize in right now, and then maybe throw a sidewinder question into you. What are some verticals that are interesting you that maybe, you say to yourself, wow, they could really benefit from our managed service providing sort of opportunity?
So the dental market found us. And dentists have lots of different ways they benefit from us. There's no one size fits all. And typically the dental practices that we have tend to be multi-unit operators. They'll own maybe 15 to 20 offices. And with Unified Office, for example, they don't need to have 20 different admins at each office. They can have one admin handle all the office locations. We do all the integrations with their patient management platforms, and then we do all these interesting little techniques that simplify the information that they would dig in to see in your dental records. We'll put some pop-ups up of information that's pertinent. So and there's a lot of other things we do. The other thing we do for the hotel operators is we developed and patented a platform, which we call a concierge portal. That is my attempt to create passive revenue generation again in the hotel rooms, whether they're occupied or not. And so I entered that vertical just before COVID lockdown. So talk about bad timing. That vertical is a longer sales cycle, but it is an important market for us because if you go into any hotel, Andy, and you've stayed in many of them like I have, you look at that phone that's been there for 20 years, and nobody uses it anymore. So I got the idea from staying in New York once a few years ago. There were 2 iPads and a phone that nobody uses. One iPad made the lights go off and on, and you could set the room temperature. And I said, okay, that's a cost. I'm not going to pay a premium for that service. I'll just soon get up and toggle the thing myself. The second one was built by a company called CraveNet, I believe, that advertised the in-hotels restaurant services. You could make a reservation or you could order food to be brought to your room. And I said, that's a revenue generator. If I could smush those things into one thing, right? Take a tablet, you can make phone calls. Look, we make phone calls off of anything that you can connect to the internet. So a phone that looks like a phone is just a vessel to us. So we pioneered this tablet interface that allowed you to sell sponsored advertisements to local area businesses that you would put in 400, 500 of your hotel rooms. I don't know what they would pay you to do that, but that they would pay you something on a recurring basis. And so that concierge is sitting in that room, unoccupied or not, generating money. Because your ads, maybe it's not the local area businesses, maybe it's your own sort of services. And so in Hawaii, we have a large hotel customer that's deployed us, and they have a lot of in-hotel wellness services that you can order right from the concierge. You can make phone calls from it, of course, if you had to. You can also order supplies for the room. I'm out of shampoo. Look, with me, I don't need a lot. So I'm not likely going to be that person, but you know what I mean? I've got a leaky faucet. And the interesting thing about the robots that I alluded to earlier is I'm not trying to replace humans, but when there's a problem hiring people and you've got a limited staff, a robot can be connected to our platform so that you can stack things on it and it will bring things to the rooms that are requesting it for you. So it's really multiplying. It's a force multiplier for your existing labor force.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
We do some cool things with it too, making it a concierge for the hotel lobby. It'll walk around and, there's a novelty factor to it, of course, but it really does. We endeavor to make that a real and functioning, productive member of your work team, not a replacement for humans at all.
You mentioned so many things. And one thing you talked about earlier was compute cycles. And when you're sort of at the forefront, changing an industry like you're doing again for probably the second or third time,
Yeah.
when you look at the compute cycles and you look at the amount of cycles that are going to be necessary, a year out, maybe tomorrow, I mean, 10 years out, it becomes sort of crazy to think about. Do you think there's going to be enough power? Do you think there's going to be enough sort of bandwidth to handle what's about to come with all this AI coming down the pack?
Honestly, I'd be lying if I told you I knew the answer to that question. But there used to be this thing called Moore's Law, right? And there was another one that the internet was going to double every 10 days. I forget what it was back in the days when I was building internet routers and things. Well, Moore's Law was actually real. And I think what happens over time is the technology ultimately catches up. It gets bigger, faster, less expensive. And I think going forward, you're going to see a more affordable compute model. Look, the same companies that built graphics engines for gaming, guys like NVIDIA, doing neural network processing, right, is sort of like three-dimensional chess computational analysis. And it turns out to build avatars, that's what NVIDIA did a great job with, doing that kind of mathematics, right? Vector mathematics. And so that the same thing with crunching large language models and doing that training, you need that kind of capability. And so that's expensive today, but that's going to keep the cost will keep going down, the input costs. And we were able to do it using today's technology available from virtualized server companies like Rackspace, and there's others. So I kind of think in order for AI is going to be less successful for different reasons. There's a lot of legal issues with it right now. Stealing copyright information from journalists and things of that nature. So I think AI is going to go through this consolidation cycle. A lot of lawsuits are out there right now saying you can't, pirating information illegally, things of that nature. And I think what will arise, that'll rise from the ashes, is something similar to the internet back in the old days. Nobody saw the internet becoming what it is today.
Yeah.
Yet, we had to go through the .com crash to build what we have now. So there'll be a reckoning of sorts, right? Don't know when it's going to happen, but it'll happen. And right now, too many companies are doing the same thing. They're all using ChatGPT to summarize a meeting or whatever, and they don't have data scientists. Data scientists are in short supply. In fact, the guy that created Open.ai doesn't even know it's himself how ultimately it works. So there's a lot of mystery to this stuff. We here are trying to put guardrails on it and make sure that the hallucinations don't happen and so on and so forth. It's really complicated stuff to make things simple to use.
Yeah, I love it. It is heady stuff, and it is what your passion's been over the past 20 plus years as an entrepreneurial technology professional, really to take something for a customer, simplify it in a meaningful way, and put them in the position to really benefit from what you're able to offer. And that's what it's been all about for you and your proven management team over there in this really what I'm going to call an emerging technology again, which is voice. And I love it. Now, am I right?
Yeah, no, you're not right. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, look, we're a unique bunch over here. I'm not going to say we're old people at all, but we've got almost 200 years of collective experience in building core routers for the internet, networking protocols, telecom equipment, voice over IP companies. Came from Sinus Networks, which is now called Ribbon. I helped take that company public in 2000. So the guy from Amazon that helped develop part of the Alexa Echo platform. And the list is, we have a unique group of people here that were able to do these kinds of complex things to make them simple.
Let's get into entrepreneurship. We have younger people watching the show, and they're watching you. They're listening to what you're having to say. They're saying to themselves, wow, this is heady stuff. He's been at it for such a long time. He's got a great team. He's helping so many industries in their very specific niche to, increase their gross revenue, increase their bottom line, give predictive analysis, sentiment analysis. You do staff performance, staff utilization, and call center statuses, amongst so many other things like KPI, performance indicator reports, and the like. they're saying to themselves, has this guy ever failed? Has he ever fallen on his knees? Because younger entrepreneurs fail sometimes. So maybe you could give a little insight to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show who are maybe having a tough time, maybe give them a little bit of that Ray, how to get through a tough time and keep on going sort of, soundbite.
So I'll take you. I was interviewed a few years ago by a fellow from Investor Business Daily. And not exactly sure why he wanted to interview me, but he wanted to know life lessons. How do I do what I do? And honestly, I remember my mom raising 3 boys by herself as a legal secretary, not making a lot of money. And, I'm 10 or 11 years old, and she's telling me things like, winners never quit and quitters never win, Raymond. Can't never did anything. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I don't know why she told me these things at 10 or 11, but these are the things that, what else does she used to say? Can't never did anything.
Right.
Right. And you've got one life to live. You might as well make a difference while you're at it.
Love it.
Right. While you're on the planet. And so one of the things that I say to people is it's not necessarily the idea that's the difference maker. It's you have to be singularly focused at never quitting. A lot of entrepreneurs quit just before they become successful. And you're going to go through this sort of up and down. It's a roller coaster ride. And the only time you don't get hurt is when you don't stand up and jump off. If you sit in that coaster and ride it all the way through, you can make an average idea and become very successful. You can never quit. You have to go through the psychological ups and downs that are absolutely going to happen. And I found in my case, in the early days, being around others that were trying to do the same thing, we're kind of a support group for each other. And I'm not going to lie, you have to put your own money to work. You're not going to be making that 6-figure salary that you used to make working at the big company, and the money's not coming from the sky. You're going to have to put your own blood, sweat, and tears in it, run up your credit card debt like I did. I was once a multimillionaire, and I took that money and I put it all in with some other wealthy individuals, friends of mine. And so we're all in it together, and we're all in it to win it. Let's put it that way. So don't quit. Whatever you do, don't quit.
Yeah, I love it, Ray. And we learned something very, very special about you just now. When your mother wanted to give you some great advice, she would call you Raymond.
Yes.
You just said, and that's one thing that you just mentioned. So I'm sure.
Go get a paper route, Raymond. You're 12 years old. And
there you go. And I had a paper route.
Make some money, so I didn't have to get my clothes out of the Salvation Army thrift store. I could actually buy some new pants once in a while. And that's what's missing today, I think, is the ability for kids to learn what it's like, what work is like, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be missing now. Everything's digital. It's all, just download it onto an iPhone, and I don't know.
There we go. We're throwbacks. And my mother used to call me Andrew when she wanted me to do something. Andrew, get on that paper route. We have a lot in common, right? Listen, I love having you on the show again. It's been great to talk about unified office, voice. I mean, managed service provider, monetization for your company using voice and AI and all the other.
Voice is the future.
Yeah, it's the future, and you're right in the middle of it, Ray. I'm going to bring you back on the show as you move along in the process. Once you get the robots talking to your system, we want to bring you back on and have some of the robots on the show. Ray, thanks so much for coming.
I would love it.
Yeah, thank you so much again for coming back on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Andy. It was great.